Hi, Cara.
Hi, Dan.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
This is really exciting. It's an honor for me to talk to an author of a book that I absolutely adored. So, you guys know we're talking about The Dearly Beloved, which was a book I wish I hadn't waited so long to read. It wasn't so long, but I have to say it was this cover that really was the kick to go grab it. So thank you for writing this book. I mean, I am very picky about what I read. I honestly say that I look for a very high tier of writing, and you are one of those authors.
Oh, thank you.
So,
That's always a relief.
yeah.
Yeah.
I said in my review that a book like this is why I read. And, we're not going to, every book isn't going to be like that, but when you find one, I felt like I told everybody who would listen, and my post got just a lot of, everybody was like, absolutely agree, or I'm going to grab it. So,
Great.
it's clearly you've struck a chord.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I guess I was going to say, first of all, that for me, although the theme of religion has been, talked about a lot, for me, this book was really about how we are tested and how we rise.
Yeah.
And, I wonder, in terms of religion can be such a divisive topic.
Yeah.
But I feel like this would strike a chord with anyone. I feel like I could put this book in the hands of a believer or a non-believer, and really ultimately, like I said in my review, it's about friendship. Is that kind of what you were hoping for?
Yeah, I mean, I set out to write a book about relationships, so I didn't set out to write a book about faith. And I was reading a book, and I got to the end of it, and I thought, oh, I could write something like that, but I wanted to be deeper. And then the characters just sort of sprang into my mind. What I really wanted to write a book about was the happy ever after. So like what happens after you get married? And I'm fascinated by how we become friends and how we create relationships. Maybe because I'm an only child. I've just always been fascinated by that. So that's what I really set out to work on. And the first draft was really just about the couples. But as I worked on it for many years, I was like, oh yeah, these guys are ministers. Like they just come to me as ministers, just, as gifts from the universe. So then I was like, oh, I need to go back and write a whole draft about their sort of faith origin stories for all of them. And so the faith was always there because the characters were ministers, but it wasn't explored really explicitly until sort of my third or fourth draft. It was the relationships that I built first.
Okay. So I did read somewhere, it might have been the questions in the back of this.
Oh yeah, maybe. I forgot those are in this.
Yeah, and are they in the hardcover as well?
No, they're not. So the reading guide was written by this amazing assistant at Simon & Schuster.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, who wrote these questions? Because they're really, really good.
Yeah, for our readers out there, don't miss. I always say, read the prologue, read the epilogue. These are really good questions. So maybe that's where I saw, but that it takes you, that your characters come to you and then you give them a story. Is that, you can probably say that better than.
Yeah,
I'm paraphrasing.
No, all of my, that's how I always start. So I know I've read that Elizabeth Gilbert likes to start with place.
Right.
Some people really, I think I read somewhere that Ann Patchett plots her book out entirely before she starts writing. So everybody does it differently. But for me, it's really the people and a feeling. And I always have a sense, I like place too, but I always have a sense of some sort of intense emotion in a person that's the impetus for writing the book. Okay. So for this book, one of the impetuses was the Charles's love at first sight. He's a love at first sight kind of guy. So his love at first sight for Lily, and that was really what drew me. And I was like, oh, I want to see what happens to these people. But yeah, they just come to me. All of the ancillary characters in this book just sprang onto the page. I'm so lucky.
Well, I don't know. It's talent.
So lucky that happened.
It's talent. But I love that. Another reason I'm so drawn to it, not only your writing, but I always search for a deep character drive. But I think I also said this, that you're not spared plot. I mean, there is a plot. Sometimes you do a deep character drive and it's not plot, and sometimes it's plot and the characters are flat. And that, depends on what kind of a reader you are. But these characters, I mean, it's rare, very rare, as much as I love to read, that a book makes me cry. I definitely did. In a couple of spots I felt incredibly attached to these. You really feel, you feel their struggles, and you feel Nan and Lily's friendship just as a mom and as a woman. It's so, it's just so honest, their friendship feels so authentic.
Yeah. Well, I think so. That's part of my fascination with friendship, because I feel like I just read a book called Big Friendship, which is out right now, which talks very honestly about friendship, but I feel like it's not often talked about seriously. And it's one of the most important things in my life. And so I just sort of was like, well, why, we don't always like our friends, and how do we get over that? Like when somebody does something to you, that it was totally, they didn't think about it, and they didn't think it would be a big deal, but then how do you repair that? And so I was really, really interested in that cycle of sort of insult and repair, or injury and repair, depending on which couple it was.
You did a brilliant job with it. And I think right now, we all are so dependent on our friendships and our connections. We can't, Zoom, but you really realize how much you miss somebody in your life, or what you could forgive. What you'd say, like, why was that ever a big deal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the segue into, you talked about writing it, how long it took you to write this, and is that unique to this novel, or that it took you about a decade or more?
I hope it's unique to this novel. I didn't write every day.
Well, I know some authors do take, I think Donna Tartt has always said it's a decade a novel.
Well, we'll see. So I started it when I was pregnant with my daughter, and life intervened, and I got divorced in the middle of writing it. And so it's not easy to write well about relationships or marriages in the middle of a divorce. Mine is super amicable. And I just would put it away for long periods of time, and then go back and sort of do 2 drafts back to back, and then put it away. And then it was finished. I guess I should say that sort of start to publication, or start to selling it, was about 13 years. But I think I was probably really finished with it in 10 years. And then
so from conception to publication, did
12 years.
Change a lot from what you thought it was going to be to what it really was?
Yeah, sort of. I wrote the first draft in about a month, and it was, I think, maybe 100 pages long. So I just really got through the arc of the story. Okay. And then the subsequent drafts were really going back and filling everything in, really spending much more time with
fleshing it out
and fleshing it out. And then sort of the last I don't know how, like the last third of working on it was really going back and making it, like adding the magic to it, like all the language and the stuff that I love to do, and sort of making sure that as I was reading it, as I was rereading it, that was still sort of giving me goosebumps as I was reading it. Because if it's not going to give me goosebumps, nobody's not going to give
That's
anybody
interesting.
else
I never thought of that. If I wrote it, would it give me goosebumps? That's great.
And
Well,
I
it's
mean,
rich. It's
yeah,
rich. It really, really is.
yeah.
You know, a book that, and it's also a book that I want to give to people. Like I know I will give it to, you know, I've suggested it so many times, and anyone who has taken my suggestion and read it has felt exactly the same way. So that, you know, that's a great feeling for me.
Thank you for recommending it, because I feel like some people are put off by the fact that it's about ministers and faith.
Yeah, and I think initially that was me, not, you know, not really for any other reason than, oh, I don't know that I want to read about religion. And I've said so many times that is not what it's about. That's like a side story, you know, not a side story, but
It's like the setting. It's part of the setting. The faith is part of the setting. So
yep, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
And it crafts who these people are, for, you know,
Yeah.
for better or for worse. So
Yeah.
um so we were going to talk a little bit about the cover. So the cover of the hardcover, and I know this isn't always true with books, but the hardcover is, I don't have a copy of that, but is so vastly, it's one of the biggest changes I've ever seen in covers. So I guess first question would be, do you have any input over any covers? And then how did you feel about the drastic change?
I do have input. So I sort of have veto power within reason. So for the hardcover, I vetoed 3 covers. And then they came back to me with, I think they came back with this one with different colorways. And they were sort of like, okay, this is it. And you get to weigh in on the cover. I'm not an artistic person in that way. I'm not a visual person. I'm not an artist, like a visual artist. So I have huge gratitude for the whole art team at Simon & Schuster who made both of these beautiful covers. So I get to weigh in on versions, and then they choose.
I think that's fascinating.
So even what I choose and what I thought they had chosen for this cover was different and better, actually. Yeah, I love this cover.
Okay. Yeah, I think the other cover was beautiful as well, but I have had a ton of readers who have said exactly the same thing, that I don't know what it is about this cover, or, you know, there's something about a paperback. I love hardcovers too, but once you've read it, you just look at these, you know, you look at this cover and you're like, I know these people. Lost you.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you want to do it all again, or do you want to edit?
No, I think we can edit. We'll be good.
So then I'll go back. I was fixing my lighting, but I'll go back to
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think it says it's still recording. It's
okay, good. Okay.
So yeah, so I don't know where we left off, but we can dive back into the cover a little bit. To the new cover.
Would you want me to? I feel like I kind of answered that.
Okay.
But I don't know actually where you cut out. So do you want me to do that whole answer?
Yeah, again? I feel like you went, like, for a while. I lost you. So I guess just do you feel like were you happier with this cover when you saw it? Did you feel like it was more like that really is because like I said, I've just had a lot of people say, oh my gosh, that.
I felt like they did an amazing job capturing the feel of the book.
Yeah.
And I think those 2 people really look like James and Nan to me. And
I wonder, yeah.
And so I was really, really pleased with the way it came out. Like it just looks happy. It looks cheerful. It looks like something I would pick up in an airport. So, I mean, not in a bad way, but
So
like if I were in an airport and saw it, I would say, oh yeah, that looks good.
to be in airports again.
I know.
Right.
Totally.
That's for another. Okay. So I know lots of authors, this is like the taboo question, but because I know that you've discussed this on other,
Yeah.
and other interviews, I'm not giving anything away to say that you are writing again.
Yes. I'm writing a new book. It's going to come out again with Simon and Schuster. And it's called Provenance. It's a very different book, which makes people a little nervous. But I actually had the idea for it before I started the Dearly Beloved. Dearly Beloved was supposed to be my practice novel. So I could write this one.
Wow,
So,
you set the bar high on your practice novel.
So it's set in, it's about a painting that gets left on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, sort of like a baby. Oh. And I actually worked at the Metropolitan Museum of Art right out of college. I was an intern in the Costume Institute. So I spent the summer cataloging Jackie O's clothes. Or not cataloging, making sure they were all hanging in the right order. Okay. And then so it's the painting is left on the steps of the Met, and then we follow these people who are trying to figure out what the painting is and their motivation for really determining the provenance of this painting. So provenance is the just all the documentation that proves a painting is what it is and who owns it.
Middle daughter works in that field. Fascinating.
Yeah, so I may have to call her.
Oh,
do some research.
So honored. She's already. This is already on her radar. I told her. Yeah.
And so it's two.
That it's like right up my alley.
And it's two timelines. So we have the timeline in the present of the people who are trying to find out what the painting is, and the timeline in the past, which is about a Romani girl who is saved from the Holocaust by her uncle, who is a forger, but he's not a forger of art. He's a forger of the provenance documents. So
wow.
It's not as simple as it sounds when I describe it. But so that takes place in the world, sort of the 50s, late 40s, early 50s, right after World War II in Italy.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I was so hoping to go to Italy this summer and do some research.
I know, yeah, you've got to do so. Yeah.
I didn't get to.
I'm just going to have to.
Exactly.
So what's your timeline with that? Or does the publisher give you?
It's probably going to be out in fall of 2022, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see for many reasons. I'm definitely writing toward that deadline, but it's crazy times. So
deadlines are messed up right now. I mean, we've seen, they're not always, but I've seen books getting publication days getting bumped back.
Yes.
So everything is. So I guess the next question would be, how has this affected your writing life? I mean, it's distracting everyone. I've heard some people say they're more focused. Some people say they're less focused.
It was great. It was actually great. My daughter goes to boarding school, and when she came home and when she started online learning, that was great because I usually write at home alone. It gets a little lonely and I can really procrastinate quite well. But since she had to be concentrating from 9 to 1 every day, then I would write from 9 to 1 every day. So I had like 2 months March, April, to 3 months of really working every day. And then it was summer and there's nothing to do. And I had my daughter and my stepdaughter home and just the sort of impatience of all of this and wanting fun things to do and sort of dealing with more mental health, sort of trying to get people out of the house and do stuff. And it hasn't been so good over the summer. But what I try to do if I can't write is at least research. So I have been doing a lot of research this summer.
Yeah, I think everyone's off their game.
Yeah.
A little bit. So that's totally understandable, but that's interesting. So you're not an author. I know some say, oh, I get up at 5 every day. I write for an hour. You're kind of. when,
And in an ideal world, and one of the things that's keeping me from writing as much as I would like to is that I like to go to a cafe in sort of the afternoon. So I'll do my errands in the morning and meetings and whatever. And then at like 2 or 3, I like to go to a cafe for a couple of hours and just sit there and have a coffee and a cookie and a snack and just write. So that's my ideal
you're in the
day.
right city for that.
And yeah,
Well,
except now it's too hot. Like now I could go sit outside, but it's too hot. So
yeah,
the fall will be really productive. The fall is going to be really productive because
yeah.
I did so much research. I have so much to write about now that once I get back in a routine, I think it'll go pretty quickly. Hopefully. I should not doom myself by saying
Yeah,
that.
no, I keep saying that. I keep saying touch wood. We don't know. Yeah, my daughter was saying New York is like Paris right now. Everything's outside.
It's great. I mean, it's nice.
But she's worried about winter. What's gonna happen?
And it's going to be long. Yeah, for sure.
So I guess as we come close to wrapping it up, I know what a lot of people want to know is, and we talked about like a two-tiered question. What are you reading now?
Yep.
And what authors do you gravitate towards?
Okay, so I gravitate some of my favorite books. Elizabeth Gilbert's one of my favorite authors. Her fiction, I loved The Signature of All Things. I love long, intricate books. So I also loved State of Wonder by Ann Patchett. She's also one of my favorite writers. And and then I love a lot of memoir. So, I mean, I really love reading memoir. I love reading food memoir, actually, a lot. So the latest memoir that I read is a book called Heavy by Kiesi Lemon, which is amazing. And the other thing, I just finished Big Friendship. And for a book group that I was reading, I'm just about to read Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, who wrote The Warmth of Other Suns. And I'm also reading my girls' required reading with them.
Oh, I used to do
that. A book called Homegoing, which is fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. And then The Poet X, which I haven't started yet.
That's one of my book club's September book.
Oh, okay.
That and also A Tree Grows in Brooklyn as like a.
I'm going to look forward to your review on The Poet X. I'll see if I agree with you.
I'm rereading A Tree Grows in Brooklyn and I'm just love that book. Yeah. Absolutely love it. But I haven't tackled Poet X yet. So.
Okay. My daughter finished, my stepdaughter finished and loved it. So she, I try to read what they're reading so I can.
I used to love to do that for good.
Well, it's like going back to school vicariously.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody needs to read The Great Gatsby more than once.
Yes. Okay. So that's I'm in 2 book groups, so I read a lot. In one book group, we're reading, I haven't started yet, but Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, which was out kind of when my book was out, and I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
I have to start that.
How much time do you devote a day to reading, would you say?
A lot, but I don't know if you guys consider listening to books cheating, but I do. I walk 4 or 5 miles a day. So I spend at least an hour and a half listening to books.
I do too.
But I buy the Kindle and I listen to it on Audible and then it syncs.
Yep.
So I read and listen to most books.
No, I don't think that's cheating at all because I think it's one of the best ways. Everybody loves to be read too.
Yeah.
So audiobooks are a huge deal.
Okay. So talking about that, the other book that I read this summer that I loved was The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay.
Okay.
That reader, I have a total crush on him. I don't know who he is, but that was an amazing audiobook. And it's set in the AIDS epidemic in Chicago in the 80s. It's not about that per se. It's actually about art, but it's set in that time period. So it's a really good thing to read. Now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the narrators often make it or break it. Not often. I would say always. So
Yes.
yeah, okay. Well, and if I had to say, an author, favorite author, two favorite authors.
Oh, Elizabeth Gilbert and Anne Patchett.
Okay, those are just okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Those are mine. Yeah.
you did tell me that. You told me that at the beginning.
Okay.
Um,
Good.
all right. Well, this has been such a pleasure, and I'm not going to lie. I'm so excited about your new book. No pressure.
Oh, me
I know a lot of people feel that way, and I think I put that in my post, my review about this, and people said she's writing again, so this will give some clarity to that because I didn't want to give anything away. Better for you
Great. Yay.
to do that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
It's so good to see you in person.
I know. I know.
I see your face.
It's been lovely, and we'll do it again when Provenance comes out.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome.
Okay. Well, all the things.
Thank you so much, Deb.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye, Cara.